So in the church world, or maybe the nerdy church world, today's this Sunday called Trinity Sunday. It's the Sunday that follows Pentecost, which is this day that marks the coming of the Spirit. And for a long time in the history of the Christian community, we've marked this Sunday as Trinity Sunday. And the thing about it is, most of the celebrations in the life of the church, they focus on an event. It could be like the birth of Jesus at Christmas time. It could be the baptism of Jesus. It could be the transfiguration. It could be Easter's resurrection. It could be the ascension, Pentecost. All these different events. And those are the ones that tend to set the stage for celebrations. And then there's this one that's tucked in here, the Sunday after Pentecost, called Trinity Sunday. And it's not about an event, it's about an idea. And honestly, it's not about an idea that is clearly specified anywhere. It's more kind of alluded to or pointed to, and yet it's settled in as a pretty orthodox, straight-up understanding within the Christian tradition that God is mysteriously somehow one. There's like a unity. And God's three and one, like all at the same time. There are lots of ways to go with Trinity Sunday in this whole notion of a triune God. But I want to highlight one understanding that's out there, and that is that this idea of the Trinity points toward God being in relationship, like just within God's own self. The Creator relates to the Christ relates to the Spirit relates to both of them, and there are, I think, 6 iterations of how those relationships between 3 people can play out. But the idea is that an essential part of who God is relationship. That it's sort of this organic sense of being within this idea, this construction, this way of thinking about the holy, about God. And if God's in relationship, then it serves as a kind of a map or a template for us, the creatures of God, to be in relationship to. I was talking to a friend of mine this last week, and she was saying how she was starting this new practice. The practice she's starting is having meals with people with whom she disagrees. Who would do that? Really? Well, I learned that my friend would. And what if we tended to our relationships, ones that are close, ones that we choose and easily fall into or connect to, and also ones that are more complicated? What if we treated all of those as if we were people that we wanted to have a meal with? And here's the thing. If we get together and have meals with people who disagree with us, and if we go into them being non-reactive and inquisitive, and we don't try to change their mind, and we don't expect they're going to try to change our mind, what would happen in those kinds of relationships? What does happen in those kinds of relationships for you? For there is a oneness about our relationships when we can slow down or shift perspectives or look at them differently, and finally come to see that our neighbors aren't different from us. That, though there's diversity and though there's separateness, there's also a unity in our connection with our neighbors, each person. When we slow down and recognize it. So maybe this construction, this idea of God as triune, three and one, maybe it's just Christian nerd life, conception. Or maybe it really is a template for how, though we're distinct, essentially we're one. A little phrase from Howard Thurman comes to mind for me: if I knew you and you knew me, and each of us could clearly see by the inner light divine, I'm sure that we would differ less and clasp our hands in friendliness if you knew me and I knew you. Blessings on your day as we find God in these times of COVID. It's May the 30th.